All this action will be brought to you by Budweiser. Whatever you do, this Bud's for you. Hello there, sports fans. I'm Bob Robertson along with Irv Brown, and we are here at Cheney Stadium in Tacoma with a crowd that has jam-packed this baseball park made over into a softball stadium for a championship game, Irv, that between two unbeaten teams has to be. Mrs. Keithan does, and we are about to get this game underway. I'll tell you, Irv, I look forward to a game between two unbeatens because they're just no better. You get two clubs that have come through the entire tournament round without a single loss anywhere along the way, and here they are, Canada and the United States, and it's all on the line in one game.
And the nice thing about something like this, Bob, is if you're on the winner, you can say, hey, I was on the team that won it all. We were the best in the world, and that's what's at stake tonight. It should really be a classic. Got to keep in mind that the United States has beaten Canada 4 times this year. Will it be number 5, or will Canada win really the only one that counts, the world title?
You know, an especially interesting feature of this game is the fact that the 14 teams came from all parts of the world to take part in this tournament. 14 different nations represented, and when it comes down to it all, here are 2 teams from communities that are just an afternoon's drive in the family car apart.
That's right.
St. Catharines, Ontario, and Midland, Michigan, representing Canada and the United States, about to go after it for the championship of the entire softball world. And that, of course, is why, as Irv said, they have played a number of times before, and here they are ready to go. And in Tacoma, Washington, USA, Canada is the home team by luck of the draw tonight. The United States will lead it off against Gene McWillie, and the big man fires hard to leadoff hitter Rod Johnson, who is batting .321 for the tournament and has had 3 game-winning runs batted in.
He's a big, strong guy, and if our viewer is joining us for the first time on this coverage of this tournament, this guy is a windmiller. You either have a windmiller or a slingshotter. We have not seen a slingshotter in the coverage of the 9 previous teams. A windmiller is very, very effective, particularly if he has a changeup. And McWillie, the time we saw him, just threw hard, harder, and hardest.
And he's doing that here as Rod Johnson goes around and fouls the fastball back. It was high in tight. By the way, Canada does have a couple of pitchers in that slingshot category. Eddie Unruh, who pitched an earlier no-hitter, and they have one other named Emil, and we could see either or both of them if this becomes a hitter's ball game tonight against Gene McWillie. The big man cranks, delivers, swing and a miss, strikeout. Rod Johnson goes down swinging. Strikeout number 1 for Gene McWillie of the Canadian National Championship team from St. Catharines, Ontario. They've been augmented, and right now, Canada's representative team. Here's Barry Cashin, the designated hitter. He plays for the United States, the club out of Midland, Michigan, the 1979 United States National Fast Pitch Softball Champions, who also have added some players from across the country and represent the USA.
The pattern of these games, Bob, has been low scoring, dominated by pitchers. We saw the third-place game, a 19-inning game. Bahama beat New Zealand. You know, that's really interesting because New Zealand went home without a trophy, a medal. They did not finish in the top 3. And, of course, they were one of the favorites of this tournament. The Bahama just came in here, got an excellent job from a pitcher named Richard Johnson, and got it done.
Here's Gene McWillie again pitching to Barry Cashin, called strike on the inside corner. Cashin had protested a bit on the first called strike. He thought it was up around his face. The umpire shook it off, said no, and it was a called strike, and now it's 0-2.
Well, this guy's throwing hard. They do have a jugs gun here. They've clocked one pitcher, as we see the foul ball up in our area. They clocked one pitcher at an incredible 120 miles an hour. Now, I mean, that's fairly bringing it.
I'll tell you, this might be the guy. Look at the third baseman for Canada. This is John Green, an outstanding hitter, but look how low he gets to the ground to guard against that ball going through.
Well, you either do or you don't when you play third base in softball, because it's 60 foot from the home to third, but they play it at about 30.
They do. They're always in looking for that bunt for the ball that is chopped or topped into the dirt. You can see Green is up now. The first baseman, Greg Dick, the same way on the other side. McWillie ready for the 0-2 pitch. Here it comes, a ground ball hit toward the shortstop. It'll be fielded, thrown to first, just in time for the out. Barry Cashin throwing out on a ground ball from short to first from Bob Stewart over to Greg Dick.
You know, the United States has a number of left-handed hitters. It's no advantage in softball unless you got a curveballer where the ball's breaking in. In this case, McWillie really doesn't show us much of a curveball. You throw the rise, the drop, he'll once in a while break it off in your hands. The advantage, Bob, comes in that you are able to get the first a step to 2 steps quicker. And in softball, that's everything when you beat it on the ground.
It's a game of quickness and of speed and agility. And I'll tell you, it is a real test of your athletic ability, as we've seen during this tournament.
I'll tell you, you know, Wes Parker did these games with us, and he was just amazed the quickness involved here and the tough pitching. In fact, I just had the feeling Wes was happy to be in the booth and not out there swinging against the likes of a McWillie or a Fogg or a Herlihy, because they really do throw hard, much harder than baseball pitchers.
We will see a lot of hard throwing tonight with Walford pitching for the United States against McWillie for Canada in this championship game. World Championship. There's a foul hit by Bruce Miller, the right fielder, to the third base side into the seats. And again, the count is 0-2. And on each of the first 3 batters, Mr. McWillie has been ahead very quickly, and he has taken advantage of it with a strikeout and a ground out to the infield, and 2 away with no runner on in the first inning so far. McWillie ready. Here it comes. Swing and a miss on a letter-high fastball, strike 3. Bruce Miller goes down swinging. Strikeout number 2 for McWillie, and the side goes 1-2-3 for the United States in the top half of inning number 1. No runs, no hits, no errors, nobody left. Middle of the first inning, it's the United States, nothing, Canada coming to bat. Well, I'll tell you, we've had a great time covering these tournament games, Irv, along with Wes Parker and ESPN and our crew. I've enjoyed every minute, every pitch of every game. Almost hate to see it come to an end. You see the umpires who are working here. We have had to cut down on a couple of these gentlemen because a few had to make airplanes. Who's with us, Irv?
Yeah, we really did. They had to cut to 4 because of some problems, as Bob pointed out. Luis Rodriguez from Mexico behind the dish. The first base umpire is Rafael Uribe from the Dominican Republic. Tommy Wang from Chinese Taipei is at second. And Don Wilson from New Zealand, the umpire, at third. And we pointed this out before, Bob. There is no pay for this tournament. These umpires work strictly for expenses, and you've got to love what you do, and these people do.
Well, Owen the Fog Walford will do the pitching for the United States. He has had an outstanding tournament, an outstanding career, and going against the Canadian champions and one of the 2 unbeaten teams in the tournament. Walford will be out there on the mound with Cronk right behind the plate. We'll give you the rest of the defensive lineup in just a moment as the first Canadian batter, Bob Peterson, a good first ball hitter, is about to step in.
Bob, watch this guy's motion. The viewer is just going to love it. He never looks at you. The eyes are down. He goes through kind of his ritual. All of a sudden, that rise explodes into your hands.
So the Fog is ready to fog. And here is the motion. Up over the head he goes, sets the ball in the glove, and here comes the pitch. Fastball is low, ball 1.
Fogg is from New Zealand. They kind of felt he was a traitor to come over here and compete against him. But, in fact, he won a ball game against New Zealand, beat him twice, to be exact. Once in relief, once as a starter, and he really kind of had their number.
Here's the pitch. That's the fastball on the outside corner to Peterson. It's a called strike. Bob Peterson, the left fielder, into this championship round, batting .333. And watch the personalized style of Fog Walford here.
The good pitcher hits his pant leg, as you can see, and that just puts more stuff on the ball. They get plenty on it as it is, and that just adds to it.
There's a fastball, but it is down low. So the count is 2 balls and 1 strike.
What a nickname, Fog. You got to love it, huh? All you got to do is say Fog, and everybody knows who they're talking about if you follow softball.
Not a bit of question at all. I know Bob Peterson does there. Bob Stewart, the shortstop, and Brian Ostrasser, the right fielder, will follow. Walford wiggling the fingers of the glove, throws the fastball on the outside corner. The count levels at 2-2. The Canadian leadoff hitter, Bob Peterson. Peterson, in several earlier games in the tournament, has gone for the first ball and has gone after it with great effect. He did not here, and the count is at 2-2 right now.
He's a fastball hitter, has a lot of trouble with the change, but Walford just likes to throw it past you.
Strength against strength, and the pitch is down low, full count, 3-2. The catcher for the United States is Nelson Cronkright. The third baseman, Jeff Peck. Shortstop, Don Van Dusen. The second baseman, Jack Starling. And the first baseman, Jim Wright. Owen Fog Walford on the pitching rubber. Sets, then swings up over the head into the motion. Here it comes. Outside, ball 4. So Canada gets the first base runner as Bob Peterson walks. Owen Walford giving up the pass. And the batter now will be Bob Stewart. And it would now behoove the Canadians to try and get that runner moved around, I would think, Irv.
Well, I think we'll see the bunt. Once again, for the viewer just joining us, we do see a great many bunts. Always, it seems, with a man on first and nobody out, they'll move them along. They drag a lot. They're in at the corners. They're expecting the same thing we are.
Stewart hits .318 in this tournament. He bunts the ball, but foul behind the plate. Kind of poked the bat at the ball. Perhaps not the best style for bunting, but he just wanted to get a piece of it and make sure.
It is tough to get a bunt down against this alignment, particularly if your pitcher is agile off the mound. We've seen some dandies who really take care of themselves. To bunt the ball, it's just like catching it. If you just catch the ball, trigger finger the trademark, and catch the ball, it's not that difficult. A lot of people make it difficult.
They got a death grip on that bat, and it's just like a club in their hands. They hit it too hard. He squares around, then he chops the ball foul down the first baseline.
The old smash, we'll see that a lot. They try and get that first baseman on the move and then hit him in the kneecap.
Yeah, a crafty maneuver there by Canadian batter Bob Stewart as he drew the infield in with the bluffed bunt and then slid his hand back down the handle of the bat and chopped away at it. But he hit the ball foul on the first base side. The count is 0-2, no balls, 2 strikes, which now probably would take away the bunt. But a couple of times in this tournament, we've seen some of the better bunters try to put it down on the 2-strike count anyhow.
Cronkite, the catcher, uses neither shin guards or a chest protector. We have seen some teams use it all as we get the 3rd strike. So, Bob, it's really interesting how they really vary that catcher's paraphernalia. The Japanese and Chinese teams both used all of the equipment. Some have used only a chest protector. We've seen some with shin guards. And here's the catcher for the United States. He's going with a mask.
I'll say one thing, Irv, without the equipment, although you might be taking your life in your hands when you do, as Brian Ostrasser steps in for Canada now, left-hand hitter, the right fielder, and the first pitch is outside ball 1. One thing it does do, it gives the catcher a little more mobility, a little more agility. With so many balls topped in the dirt in front of the plate and the bunt plays,
good point.
It may be an advantage to him that way in his mind.
That is a good point. The guy at the dish is the only Canadian who's played baseball. He was drafted by the Mets.
That one's straight up in the air. The first baseman is there, Jim Wright, and he gathers it in. So 2 away in the bottom of the first for Canada as Brian Ostrasser, the right fielder, popped it straight up. And Jim Wright, the first baseman, looking right down his throat by the time that ball was to the plate, was there to catch it. The batter is John Green.
John Green is tough.
Yeah, he's one of the additions to the ball club for the championship tournament. Came out of Victoria, British Columbia.
Watch his style of hitting. He'll lay the bat back a la Gil McDougall. Now, that means that you've got to make an adjustment with your wrist. But, boy, he does. He really makes contact. That's why he's hitting the 4-hole.
Now, you just mentioned this young man from Victoria holds a bat like Gil McDougall. I'm going to make an observation here that may have no bearing on anything, but did you know that Gil McDougall played for the Victoria Athletics in the Western International League in about 1948 or 49?
These thrills never end.
They don't. This kid wasn't even born yet.
I'm kidding. McDougall, one of my favorites. McDougall was the guy involved. He hit the line drive that hits the Herb score, wasn't it, in the eye? And
yeah, I think you're right. He did.
McDougall, anyway, a good bat. And Green is similar with that style. He'll lay it back, but he does react quickly.
The count, no balls, 1 strike. Here's the pitch by Walford. Fly ball to right field. The right fielder waits for it, moves over towards the line a bit, moves in, makes the catch, and that is the 3rd out. The bottom of the first inning is over for Canada. No runs, no hits, no United States errors, no Canadian runners left. And at the end of 1 complete inning of play, it is the United States nothing, Canada nothing for the championship of the world. And we'll be right back. The very fine pitchers that come from Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. Rich Ginter, who pitches for the Canadian national team out of Victoria, BC now, and a pickup with the team, was originally out of Saskatoon. Ball grounded foul to the right side, the first base side. 1-2 the count. Canada and the United States, a pair of unbeatens.
Bob, our weather has been beautiful here. Of course, you live in this area, but we thought we were going to get a little rain. It's still cloudy, but it's been that way all day long, and it's just been perfect. A great crowd. What are our attendance figures?
Well, I'll pass this along to you right now. I've been kind of holding it for the fanfare announcement, but here it is. The largest crowd ever to watch a softball game in the Pacific Northwest. 8,343 is gathered here at Cheney Stadium tonight for this championship game. That is ruled a foul tip and strike 3.
Well, that'll draw a crowd.
Yeah, here comes Jack Starling out to argue that one as the batter Jeff Peck is called out. Peck with the glasses, Starling also there as they argue with the plate umpire on it.
That's Luis Rodriguez from Mexico. The officiating in this tournament has been excellent. We'll take another look. This is a judgment call. Did he or did he not break his wrist? Here's the rise. It goes out of the zone. And in the opinion of Mr. Rodriguez, he did break his wrist. Not a very popular call with the United States ball club.
But the third strikeout for Gene McWillie, and it brings Russ Van Zoren, the center fielder, to the plate. We have seen Russ power one out of the park during this tournament. Good power and a .278 batting average.
The equalizer in the game of softball is the rise. It starts the good pitchers. What we've observed in the 10 games that we have done, the good pitcher started around the letters, and then all of a sudden it hops out of the zone. There's no control with the hitter, it appears. We haven't seen anybody hit a good rise yet.
Now, the only way to do it is to guess rise and get up on top of it and hit down into it. And here's the pitch called strike. It's 1-1. The rest of the story on that crowd, 83-43 in the ballpark tonight. That brings the total attendance for the championship tournament to 78,847 in a week here in Tacoma. The World Softball Association very, very pleased about it all. And the fans very pleased because they have seen some great action.
That is amazing. I guess I've been saying there was 26 million playing in the country, and I was corrected. It's closer to 30 million. We mentioned this earlier, and of course we probably have some different viewers. It started in Chicago back in the late 1800s, Bob. A guy threw out a boxing glove messing around, and his friend hit it with a stick, and all of a sudden they had a game. It was indoor for a while, then they called it indoor-outdoor. They came up with a unified set of rules in the 30s, and away we go. Slow pitch really is a result of too many good pitchers in fast pitch, just what you're seeing right out here now. People want to hit the ball, so they started going to slow pitch.
Here's a pitch again. Strike called, and the count is full at 3-2. You're telling us about that boxing glove and the stick. Do you suppose if the first guy had missed the first boxing glove with the first stick, that the game never would have happened? McWillie is ready. Here comes the 3-2 delivery to the plate. Check swing, ball 4. Pitch was a little bit high. And Van Zoren, I think, was in a pretty good spot there taking that pitch, because after the beef on the last call, a close one was not going to go the other way again.
Yeah, that's kind of human nature. Here it is, the ball, pretty good back control, and of course the strike zone is a little higher than baseball, but the call goes, in this case, for the left-handed hitter. Another left-hander up, Jim Wright.
Jim Wright, the first baseman for the United States. A runner at first base, top of the second inning, and 1 out. McWillie ready. The ball is bunted up in the air. The first baseman, Greg Dick, into foul ground to get it now. The runner breaks off first, but quickly retreats.
You see that a lot. You just get overpowered. The game really belongs on the mound. People estimate it's about 90% of the game at this level. You got to keep both feet in contact with the rubber. Bob, we were talking about this earlier too. Remember when you could windmill as many times as you wanted to? And you talk about,
do I ever?
You talk about some people get excited. A windmiller, if he's got a change, as I mentioned, is really lethal. But have you ever seen somebody who would windmill 2 or 3 times who could really throw hard? I mean, really bring it?
Yeah, I recall Eddie Feiner, of course, who traveled with that 4-man team called the King and his Court. And Eddie did grow up in this part of the country. He came out of Walla Walla, and he played a lot of his amateur softball back in the late 40s and early 50s in and around Seattle. And then he went on the road, and he could throw the ball about as hard as anybody I've ever seen. And he would do that. He would windmill 3, 4, 5 times. The ball would fly out in the middle of the second one or come out around behind his back on the third one. And there were just all sorts of things that he could and would do. And yeah, Feiner could do a lot of things with the ball.
I've caught his act. He is excellent. I didn't realize he's from around here. I went to school with a guy named Harvey Sturkle, and a lot of our viewers will recognize that name. Went and pitched in the Chicago area. Not only could Harvey Sturkle throw a softball, he was a great athlete. He could swim. He was a football player, and you see a lot of fine athletes
There's
here.
a ground ball through the hole to left field. It's a base hit. That one delivered by Don Van Dusen as he grounded the ball sharply through the left side, and it will advance Russ Van Zoren to second base. So runners at first and second for the United States with 2 out, and the batter now will be the catcher Nelson Cronkright.
The Canadians do not fool around, Bob. There's activity already in the bullpen, and we have seen a pitcher yank after he'll give up a couple hits. That's it. They've got a lot of depth. They do not fool around.
Oh, you are right. Yeah, that Canadian manager, Al Beckman, he rivals Sparky Anderson for the Captain Hook title.
Lay it in my hand like an egg. Don't say a word.
Here's the foul back now by catcher Nelson Cronkright. Count is 1 strike. There are 2 away.
We get some interesting styles on the bases. You cannot lead off. You can't go. And the Canadians actually a little disadvantage. Their league permits you to go when the foot raises. Here in the World Tournament, you've got to see the ball on the way. It's got to be released. So we do have some contrasting styles. Some people lead off the front of the base to cut down a step. Others the back. Some on top to get a little push off.
There's some question about the backstop back behind home plate. The Canadian manager is over now. Beckman, he has been out before, and he is questioning that backstop back there, and the umpire now has just kind of turned away from him and says play. He wants him to go away, and it may be that they do not communicate very well in language. We may have to get Tom Mason, the supervisor of umpires. In fact, the Canadian third baseman John Green has gone to the third base umpire now to see if the communication lines can be opened. The first base umpire has come down.
Third base umpire does speak English. That's Don Wilson. I really don't know what the beef is about. We've been playing all week long, and there has been no complaint.
But suddenly now there is, and I was trying to look and see if perhaps that backstop had been pushed forward at some point, but it does not seem to have. It looks like it's pretty well set in there with a wire fence. That backstop was brought in, loaned from the University of Puget Sound here in the Tacoma area, because the rules of softball require that the distance from the plate to the backstop be a minimum of 25 feet, a maximum of 30. And this being a professional baseball park, the distance from the plate to the permanent grandstand was more in the nature of 60 feet and was too far for legal distance. So they brought in the temporary backstop and screen and set it up behind home plate.
Be interesting to see what this squawk was about. But irregardless, we're ready to play with the 2 base runners on.
Cronkright the batter, the count 1 strike. Runners ready to go, 2 out. Here's the pitch, swing and a miss at a fastball up around the letters, strike 2.
Well, McWillie really threw that one hard. He threw the rise. The hop started about the time the left-handed Cronkright was swinging the bat, and there really was no chance.
McWillie is a big man, and he can really bring that ball to the plate with velocity. Here he comes again. Swing and a miss on a fastball, strike 3. So whatever the argument was about, the point is now moot. The side is retired. No runs for the United States in the second inning on 1 hit, the first of the game. There were no Canadian errors. 2 runners left aboard. And at the middle of the second inning now, the score here at Cheney Stadium in Tacoma, Washington is 0-0. Canada 0, the United States 0, and we're ready to drop down to the bottom of the second inning. Well, the college football season is just around the corner. You'll have the best seat in the house for several top games each week if you're a member of our ESPN team. Great teams like Alabama, Ohio State, Florida State, and great names like Jim Simpson, Bud Wilkins.
You're kidding me. Don't tell me that. I'm not going to believe that.
That was the original nickname, and they dropped the doctor later on and just called him Fog. So here's Owen on the pitching rubber, throws the fastball to Barry Newhouse, the Canadian catcher. It's a called strike just above the knees on the inside.
Dr. Fogg, if you're going to be a doctor, you got to play basketball.
Be 9 feet tall. All right, here comes the motion again by Walford, and that pitch up in the eyes, swing and a miss by Barry Newhouse. He comes in batting 167, which translates to 1 hit every 6 times up. Here's the motion again with the arms up over the head. Swing and a foul back into that screen.
You know, they list him at 5'8", 136, and I find that hard to believe. I don't say he's going to give you 180 up there, but he really looks bigger than that. He's only 25 years old. He's married, and he's a machine operator. Here's a catcher who really is slight, and he gets after. You got to be tough to handle a guy like McWillie behind that dish. Maybe that's why he doesn't use the equipment.
I'll tell you, most catchers are a little bigger and sturdier than that because of collisions at the plate and the wear and tear on them. 0-2 the count. Walford the pitch. Fouled back again. He beat it into the dirt, and it rolled back into the screen.
Well, I'll tell you, he is slender, isn't he?
Yeah, he sure is. Proportionately, he has good-sized forearms and wrists, though. If he's only 136 pounds, those are pretty big arms.
I love this motion of the fog.
Fly ball deep along the left field line, curving for the corner. It's a fair ball, bounces over the wall. It'll be a two-base hit. It'll be a ground rule double. And I'll tell you, for a little guy, he powered that one, didn't he?
He got it all.
Watch this swing now.
He hit it a ton. The back foot pivots, Bob. He really throws the belly button at the pitcher, quick and down. Look at that, throwing the bat like an axe, and that's not easy to pull the ball down there. There's the Canadians are pretty happy. They're hauling the flag around.
Yeah, they're out behind that center field fence 250 feet away. And they should be. They have the lead runner at second base with nobody out. Rick Robertson is due up, but they may pinch hit for the number 9 hitter here as we have a conference going at the plate.
And we ought to point out, Bob, for the people joining us for the first time, you can pinch hit and then put the player back in with the exception of the designated hitter. So the strategy here is to try and get a run with the number 9 hole hitter up. So I believe that that's what Beckman's going to do.
Yeah, you can do it one time. A starting player can be replaced and return one time. Now, if he comes out a second time, then he's gone. Then he has to stay out. But Dick Ballant, who is
this is the bunter, Bob. Now, we've seen him. This is the strategy. This guy is an excellent bunter. Beckman's going for one. They'll try and dump it, make the third baseman handle it. If the same strategy as we have seen in previous games, he'll put him in, and he is an excellent bunter.
Well, the runner at second base, Barry Newhouse, is ready to go. The infield is up. Walford is ready. Dick Ballant is at the plate. There's the bunt back toward the mound. The third baseman cuts across, fields it, throws to Starling, covering at first, and the sacrifice works as it goes from the third baseman Jeff Peck to the second baseman Jack Starling, covering.
How about execution here? Boy, you talk about dropping that thing, catching the ball. He trigger fingered the trademark and really got it done. So Ballant has really contributed in this tournament, and now we've got the suicide squeeze, if they want, a sacrifice fly score. We saw an excellent suicide squeeze in an earlier game, and it's got to be perfect because you can't lead off.
That's right. You're behind that infielder, and you can't go till the ball is thrown. The top of the order up for Canada now in the bottom of the third inning with a runner at 60 feet away at third base and only one out. Here's Bob Peterson. He'll be followed by Bob Stewart.
First ball hitter. Let's see if
the infield is all the way up. They'll try to cut it off at the plate. Here's the pitch, low and away, a fastball, ball one.
Boy, the runner at third, Newhouse, very aggressive, had everybody jumping around. The shortstop was out of position on that play, and that's what aggressive base running will do. There's no substitute for speed.
Bob Ryan starts to warm up in the United States bullpen in right field. Big fella, right-hander. As Walford is ready, here's the pitch, fastball, low and outside, ball two. There is no tomorrow for these teams, so there's no need to go too long with anybody.
Not with the kind of staff both of these teams possess. Ryan is an excellent pitcher.
So Owen Walford, who has had a good tournament, the United States, as is Canada, unbeaten. Here's Bob Peterson at the plate, ready. The wind, the arms up over the head, and here it comes again, foul, back into the screen. Fastball.
Good cut.
Yeah, he was going for it that time.
Ryan has got his coat off. He's throwing hard. I mean, he is not just up playing around. That number 19 in the bullpen is throwing a few pitches hard already. So the skipper, Jack Starling, is...
that looks like Chuck Darcy with the jacket on next to the wall there. Also a right-hander, and he's loosening up. But Ryan is the man they're getting ready, it would appear, right now. Walford in a bit of trouble here in the third inning. Cranks up the pitch to Bob Peterson. Here it comes, a ground ball to the shortstop. Oh, nice play. Throws to first. Got him.
What a play.
Really hit the ball hard. Don Van Dusen came up with the ball, breaking to his left. Looked the runner back to third and threw the man out.
And he was in. He was in tight. He has to cut it off. So here's the lick.
Now watch him. He'll come up with it and look to third base if he doesn't run out of our picture. See him look back?
Oh, that is just excellent. Puts the back foot at 90. That is a fine move.
And then goes to first base. Don Van Dusen over to the first baseman, Jim Wright. That is the second out. That's a very big one because it takes away now the sacrifice fly.
I'm surprised they didn't run. I'm really surprised that they didn't run. The ball hit to the left-hand side. It would have been a bam-bam play at the dish, but Newhouse can run a little bit. I'm really surprised they didn't do it.
There's the pitch now to Bob Stewart, low and away. That caught the corner. Called strike. Well, I think the reason he didn't nerve was that the ball was hit so sharply the shortstop had it before he could get off the bag, and when he came up, the first thing he did was turn right to third base and look at him.
That's true, Bob. But, you know, there's so few opportunities to score in softball, and I really would have thought that they would have run.
Swing and a miss. Interesting, the positioning Barry Newhouse takes at third base. He's standing with his foot on the bag right now over there, but when he gets ready to go, he steps off the